For me, transgressive, well, actually, at this meeting, there was a conversation between Lena Weber and Martin, here from Sweden, about bacteria as a metaphor for transgressive learning. Usually, we think about bacteria as a bad thing, that we get sick and from bacteria, which is true, but most life on Earth is made possible because of bacteria. We are 90% bacteria. The way that we digest food is because of bacteria. So we thought about how bacteria are like the ultimate boundary crossers, and they are changing and crossing boundaries all the time, both in us and with nature. And we have created so many boundaries in our lives and in our world that we need to think about boundary crossing. So when we're thinking about bacteria, there's some elements about bacteria that are really interesting. One is that bacteria are like the ultimate collaborators, because they collaborate by making relationships, and what Donna Haraway calls symbiosis instead of symbiosis, which is the making with, and that's a key element of transgressive learning, or T learning. It's the making with and learning with, and most bacteria do this in a very constructive way. So when we're saying transgressive, we're not saying that it's just anarchy and we're just breaking down systems and breaking down boundaries, but they break them down and recreate new life. So that's the metaphor for T learning.
Excellent.
Bacteria.
Excellent.
Transgressive learning is for me the dung bee, the bee who collects shit, a lot of it, makes it bigger, staying with the shit, and then transforms it into something else. Can be anything, a house, whatever. Yeah, basically that.
Okay, my name is Mutizwa Mkute, and I come from Zimbabwe. I'm working on the T-learning case study in Zimbabwe together with some farmers and colleagues in the NGO and academic sectors. The image that comes to mind when I think about T-learning is that of a pioneer plant. Pioneer species that is something like a lichen that is bold enough, that is strong enough to occupy a place such as a rock, to work on that rock. And what is important about it is that it doesn't only create good conditions for itself to survive, but it creates conditions for subsequent stages of or several stages of plants to grow. And in T-learning, I think what we envisage is a situation where you break old habit, old routines, structures that are not working, that are stubborn, that are not sustainable, that embody injustice of different kinds. And when those are dealt with, it's very likely that new challenges will emerge that will require further transgression, further transformation, and in that way you can liken the lichen to something that changes the environment for itself, but also for subsequent plant vegetations to thrive and survive.
When I think about T-learning, I really think about new ideas and practices which cross boundaries. For me, the metaphor that I like to share is the idea of decomposition, the idea of breaking down something into its basic elements that can be put back together in a new, innovative way. And in practice, a really nice example of this is the compost toilet. This is where human manure is transformed into compost to fertilize the garden, which produces food which we eat, which we then go back into the compost toilet and creates a natural cycle. And this metaphor of composition is really different, I think, to how most of us understand or connect with the natural world. For example, going to the toilet, the human manure coming into the water, being washed away into a sewage system, being treated chemically. That's a complete disconnection with nature. So the idea of for example, a compost toilet where we connect all our practices into a natural ecological cycle to take advantage of all our resources.
So my name is Martin Mikkelson and I'm a PhD student at Uppsala University. And for me, T-learning or transgressive learning, I would use the metaphor of, I would say, bacterial learning, how bacteria works together but also learn from each other together. Because even both in facing challenges but also facing opportunity or generative or beneficial conditions, bacteria communicate both chemically but also on a very genetic level by, for example, transferring genes between each other, but also like in order to, on a genetic level, transgress themselves and also transgress their limitations, I guess, and that also goes across species in order to actually deal with the challenges that they approach or that they encounter during their lives. And that is especially coming into view when you look at the bacteria in the human body, where it's a crucial part of human life is having the bacteria work with you and for you in, for example, the gut and so on. So I think that it's a super interesting metaphor, and we can learn a lot from how bacteria can collaborate but also compete and try to develop a learning based on that. Thank you.